All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. This meeting is being recorded by the Ways and Means Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. In accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20G, no person shall address a meeting of a public body without permission of the chair, and all persons shall, at the request of the chair, be silent. No person shall disrupt the proceedings of a meeting of a public body. If, after clear warning from the chair, a person continues to disrupt the proceedings, the chair may order the person to withdraw from the meeting, and if the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer to remove the person from the meeting. Okay, roll call. Councilor Bottomley. Here. Councilor Forgy. Here. Councilor Golub is not here. And I had, oh yeah, if you would watch that, that would be good. I believe she's not going to be here this evening. Councilor Toronzo.
I'm here. Where's the thing?
Here's the thing. Stephanie Duple just entered the room.
I'm trying to, there we go.
And,
I'm sure.
okay.
I'll into it.
Oh, the cord's undone. No, that part really doesn't matter. That goes to nowhere, I guess. Does this go to anything? Do you know?
No,
Does anyone know?
Sure goes to something.
I know, but it doesn't need to.
it doesn't need to be plugged in.
You sure? Okay. I tried to watch a meeting the other day that wasn't there, so I was curious. All right. So approval of the minutes from March 13th, 20th, 29th, and 30th. Has everybody had time to read all of those?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll take a motion to approve all of the minutes if.
So moved.
Second,
Okay. Any corrections or anything? No? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes? Okay. I'm an aye also. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so they're approved. All right, public comment. Do we have any members from the public that wish to say anything? If you do, you can just, if you do, you could unmute and speak up or raise your hand, either one. You have a public comment? Okay. Going once, twice. All right. Motions, approve, let's see. Motions, I want to get through the minutes first. Approve the memorandum of understanding.
19.
Just looking for the page here. 19?
19.
Oh, thank you, Mike. That was good. The City Council, upon recommendation of Mayor Rita Gardner, moves that it be ordered that the memorandum of understanding between the City of Greenfield and the City Hall clerical and library employees, United Electrical Radio and Machine Workers of America, be approved. So is there discussion on this?
so this, I'm assuming, has been ratified already
I would assume so.
because it's here?
I would assume that that was true.
Okay.
Is that so?
I'm getting there. Yes.
That's okay. That's all right. Thank you very, very much. No, so it looks like it was done on time and it appears that it's 3%, 333.
There is some language change as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I wanted to see the part on the insurance. Just curious about that.
So my question, I guess, at this particular point is that there has been quite a lot of cross out in this contract. And my question would be, I don't want to say why, because that's what they negotiated for, but I am again going on the assumption that all of the areas and pieces that were crossed out were probably old. And to streamline contracts at this point, I know that there are things that happen like, what do I want to say? You used to have different types of leave, like, sick leave and personal leave and family leave and everything else, but now it's all put under leave. And that allows the employee to use whatever time they need in whatever capacity. So I am wondering if there is, as I go through all of this, if there is any additional explanation to any of this language change.
So I guess that would be for Director Schindler or the mayor. Does anybody have the answer to that question?
Director Schindler wasn't involved in these contract
Okay.
negotiations, but I was for the most part. The team that does contract negotiations for the city is Danny Letourneau and Diana Letourneau, and sometimes the lawyer, Gordon Quinn. Remind me of what your question is. If you have the final version in front of you, yes, everything was agreed upon. You probably received the, obviously, because they ratified it, but you probably received the strikeout version just to let you know what had changed.
Okay.
So if you have, I'd have to go to the contract, which I have here somewhere. Here it is. If you need a specific question about some particular section of the contract, I'll do my best to answer it. I attended, oddly enough, this was the very first one that we did. It went very smoothly for the most part. I mean, they are negotiations. So, but it was not something that required a lengthy contract negotiation. Actually, we've done really well this year. We are on our fourth and final one that has to be negotiated for this year, and that is the S unit, which is largely some department heads and mostly your mid-level management, your field supervisors, and your different people that are part of the S unit, but at this higher level. But that is ongoing. So you will be receiving this one, a DPW contract and a central maintenance contract at some point in the very near future. Probably you'll get a whole bunch of them in July.
Well, my question, I'm looking through this now and I'm seeing that there are a lot of definitions that have been removed. A qualifying event, eligible employee, those types of things, medical certifications. There's quite a number of pages of language that has been crossed out. So I am assuming that in the first few pages of this contract, all of the language that it was written addresses all of the things that are basically crossed out until you get to about page 13, I think, and then it just goes into back into.
You're looking at the clerical contract, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. I can tell you, I'm trying to think of where, let's think back to March, April, maybe. I forget what the ratification date is on it, but the the ones that were required a fair amount of discussion were we made it so that they would step earlier, which is a good thing.
I see that.
So that was not a it wasn't a major discussion. The longevity piece, I think, was the one. So that's number 10, Article 12, Section F. What we discovered was actually an error in calculating. I'm going to give you the real Cliff Notes version here. An error in calculating. This goes back to the to previous contract negotiations in previous contracts that you've already approved and people are working under. But it was done across the board in longevity pay. So we had to address it for these 4 contracts this year.
Okay.
And so there was an error made in paying out the longevity. And so people received, and it was mostly oddly enough, a clerical error, but not by these people, just an error in what we had ratified in other contracts. So we realized that people were getting paid double or paid more in longevity than they should be. And so while we went ahead and did not take that money back, because it was pretty much already gone, we needed to correct the language. So at the end of the day, what this is a language correction and the ability to, of course, continue to receive longevity. That was never in question. But the amount was calculated wrong in the payroll office at the time, which goes back to probably 22. Yes, 22, at least 22. So it was correcting a financial error that needed to be also contractually approved, and it did get approved. Once they understood where the error was, and 2, we weren't going to make them give the mistake back. And that's, I don't know if that makes sense. You almost had to be there. But if you have additional questions, it's correct now in all contracts, with the exception of the S unit, which we are negotiating right now.
So it seems like to me, a lot of the crossouts you might be talking about are where the definitions were changed for number 26, which was Article 23. And it looks like, other than just changing the qualifying events, a lot of what I was seeing is that at the very bottom, it says, see the City of Greenfield Family and Medical Leave Policy for full details of the policy and procedures, which looks like a lot of those were outlined already. So it almost looks like it just shortened that section.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So remind me again, you said number 23, Article 16.
It's number 26 on here.
Oh, sorry.
Article 23.
Yeah, right. So I think in one case, and I believe this was it, we rather than have certain like appear through a couple of different places in the contract, I think this was the one. It was consolidated into one section. I almost have to go back to see what that is.
This was on.
In other words, nothing in terms of say qualifying events, none of that changed.
Right.
It just was moved within the contract so that the new contract will read more clearly.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think, I don't think qualifying events, I'm looking at that. So that has to do with FMLA, Family and Medical Leave Act. And it simply talks about how you can take Family and Medical Leave Act. And it was, consolidated into one section. So those definitions didn't change. They were just, to my knowledge, I'm still looking here.
Gave you a hyperlink instead.
They were just moved. It's funny, you should probably have gotten a copy, and I don't really know what was sent to you, frankly, off the top of my head right now. I didn't do it. You should have received the clean contract as a separate document so you could see how it related to those. We haven't gotten rid of parental leave. We haven't gotten rid of Family and Medical Leave Act or any of that kind of thing. We've just moved it into a single section and so that it's all in one place and not scattered throughout the contract.
So I have a question about that, the longevity error that went back to 2022. You said that was across the board. Does that mean to all employees?
Yes. Well, yeah.
And so no one had to give that back?
That is correct.
Okay. But what was the cost of, was there a large cost of that?
That is perhaps a question Dr. Diana Schindler can answer, but if not, I can certainly get you that answer. I don't think that it was, I honestly don't remember. If it was even, I'm sure it was discussed. So I don't have that answer for you tonight, but I can certainly get it for you. And, it didn't stop the contracts from being ratified.
So Director Schindler, do you know the answer to that by any chance?
Counselor, I do not have that answer readily available. I would have to go back and look at that myself.
Okay. And then everybody's longevity will go back to what it's going to stay this, it will be calculated correctly from now on. Is that? Yes. Okay. All right. So
that is correct.
Okay. So my other question on this was on the health insurance.
Well, give me
I'll tell you exactly. On page 32, Article 24, Section D, the insurance coverage provided by the employees will be reviewed. If you could just explain that a little further. Are we relooking at this?
Is it
27, number 27 or Article?
Okay, 27. Yeah, thank you. That helps a lot.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you. Thank you very much.
But let me get there. So I am, as you know, scrolling.
Yes, no. Take your time.
There we go. Again, this is okay. We have made no changes to any of our benefits. What this says is we are supposed to have, Diana, what does IAC stand for? It's
Insurance Advisory Committee.
That's right. Each union gets to provide a representative to the Insurance Advisory Committee. Counselor Forgy may remember such an animal from way before.
Oh, yes.
And for whatever reason, during Mayor Martin's tenure, it kind of fell by the wayside, most likely probably because we didn't make a lot of changes in the health insurance at the time. It only relates to the fact that should we in the future, should a desire to change our healthcare policy, whether, I'm going to give an example. This is not an example that is under consideration or anything, but right now we pay 80% and the employee pays 20% of their healthcare costs, their premium costs. And if we were to say change that because of the continued rising cost of health insurance, and that part is in fact true, to 60/40 or something of that nature. Then this clause establishing the IAC one more time allows the IAC to meet as a group, as it says, the city shall provide the IAC representative or union president if there is no IAC representative, advance notice and opportunity to be heard on changes to existing supplemental benefits, dental, life insurance, with the exception of renewals in which no notice is needed. So that's what the purpose of the IAC is.
So 4G has a question. Go ahead, Council.
Okay, so I'm a little shocked by the news that the Insurance Advisory Committee has gone by the wayside at this
Well,
point.
imagine my surprise.
Yeah, I can. I can. So my question is that if there is no need to call upon, and form an AIC under certain circumstances, how is the information disseminated to bargaining units and unions in regard to the changes? Are they notified by letter like retirees are notified? Is that how that, in other words, we used to meet every single year. Insurance Advisory Committee used to meet.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it used to, every year when the rates came out and everything else, they used to have a meeting, and it also included retirees as well. So I realize this is a particular contract, but let's jump out of the contract for a second and just say everybody got a chance to go to the meeting, hear the news all at once, and take it back to their constituents and decide what they wanted to do with that. So I'm extremely happy to see that this is written into contract language. I hope it is taken up by all the contracts that are coming forward at this point. And I would love to see it outside of the contract language in an independent advisory committee formed once again to meet on a yearly basis, just to hear all the information and have all their questions answered at once. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Did you require a response from me, Councilor?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
I could just put your mind at ease a little bit. When I may have overstated. The IAC had not fallen by the wayside per se. It's just that various union presidents had retired, or various IAC members had either retired or left the city, and there was only one or two people that were left from at least back to Mayor Martin's time. So when we discovered this, it was actually pretty much discovered by our broker, One Digital. Digital, is that right, Diana? Whoever they are. And they're the ones that negotiate the contract with Health New England. We've done very well with Health New England over at least in my tenure. They've been very generous to us. We happen to be one of their largest customers in Western Massachusetts, because we include the schools in that as well. And it was just important. They kept pushing for us to put an IAC in place. It just took a little while. But so your suggestion is a good one, and I'm sure it could be followed through on going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have two questions on that. What month do you actually hear what the insurance rates are going to be for the next fiscal year? When are they announced to you?
Here in January.
Yeah, I was going to say it's in the early, sort of the early winter, thereabout, time frame. As I say, we have a broker, and they are the ones that sort of drive that process. The finance department and the finance director work with them. And at some point, the broker will call for a meeting. For instance, in 21 or 22, we questioned, is Health New England really the best option?
Yes.
Let us go and do a competitive, we asked One Digital to bring us back some information on potential competitors. Fallon was one of them. Oh, I can't think off the top of my head. Others, just because we could see the rise in insurance costs. Liz Gilman was, and I don't know how she did it, but she was an expert in negotiating the insurance company down every year through One Digital. But anyway, we asked to have that happen, and as it turned out, Health New England was still the one most willing to give us the best deal. So, we have been, in the last 3 years, been pretty lucky with our health insurance increases. We kind of got the notice from the broker that this year, you did well. I don't remember exactly what it was. Diana may remember, but it was in the teens, in the double digits, and they agreed to whatever it was, a 7+% increase. So, but it was known to us that, or let it be known to us that we may be not that successful going forward. Not to say we would ever settle for whatever outrageous number they gave us. And it can sometimes feel outrageous when you consider the number of people that are insured. And as you know, we don't just insure the employee. In many cases, we insure the family and the retirees, as Councillor Forgy suggests. Now, I will say this: the retirees are not on Health New England. They're with United Healthcare.
United American Health.
Okay.
And also,
Did you have a second question, Councillor Disorder?
No, I think you answered that. Thank you very much.
Sure.
My observation would be everything, all the rates and everything else have to be in place even before the budget.
Yes.
Right.
Processing.
Right.
Actually
That's right.
starts,
They
you know what to ask for. So, yeah.
That's why
It
I wanted.
happens early. You're right. I'll lower my
All
hand.
right. So, any more discussion on this? All right. Hearing none, I'll take a vote on it.
Okay.
All those in favor of, okay? 4 in favor. And anybody against? No. Any abstentions? No. Okay. All right, next. FY 23-163, the City Council upon recommendation of Mayor Rita Gardner. Fiscal year end of year transfer request. The sum of $100,000 be transferred from 01009120.5740 workers' compensation to the following general funds accounts. The fire department overtime, $87,000, and fire department buildings. Balance in the workers' compensation fund is $145,847. Majority vote required. I have my first question on that is, so will we have a balance then left? So that would be 45,000. Right. Okay. So would you, questions on this? I have questions on it. Anybody have some questions on it? Okay. So the chief is here, so I had some questions on, it was the rental of a switch. One of the switches that was rented, I heard it was a big switch, not the kind of a light switch that what I think of, which was what I was thinking of, I must say. But we bought the first switch, or we rent, what, could you explain about the switch, please?
Yes.
That would be perfect, you're more than welcome.
Here. So when we transferred from 412 Main Street down to Hope Street, we took as much of the old firehouse as we could and tried to Band-Aid it and keep it going so we didn't have to put more money into the temporary firehouse. One of the items that we brought was our generator and the transfer switch for the generator. So what the transfer switch does is it takes all the power from the street that goes to our building and then goes through that and feeds the whole complex. But what it also does is that if we lose power, it transfers from the main electrical feed to our backup generator. So it kicks on automatically and there's no problems. So we're not talking like a little light switch. We're talking it's actually two big panels.
Okay.
They're very sophisticated and very hard to get right now. We limped along for one for rental, but the rental was out of control on how much the rental was. And so we ended up purchasing it. So I believe that this includes both the rental and the purchase of the transfer switch. I will tell you that we did look at taking this transfer switch to the new firehouse. But because our new firehouse is very energy efficient, but it's all run off of electrical in the front part of the building, this switch would have been undersized. And I believe after talking with George before he left, his goal is to be able to repurpose this somewhere else other than the city. But it replaces an old transfer switch that it died after a year at the firehouse, which it was probably going to die at the old firehouse and we would have had the expense anyways. So it's a gamble we took to try to save some money. It didn't hold up that long. And the other item that we had to purchase, again, it was an item from the old firehouse, was an air dryer for our compressed air system. That air dryer came from a school, went to the old firehouse, and then went to the temporary firehouse, and it died. And that piece of equipment is important to us because the air dryer takes the moisture out of the air that the air compressor makes, so that moisture is not going into our truck brakes. And so both of those items, unfortunately, are items that you can't go through a lengthy process to try to get it approved. So we try to offset the best we could, but that's why they showed up. And then the overtime, although it's still a significant amount of money. If you remember, I think you all got a report from me in January that went into very much detail on what we anticipated the overtime was going to be. And at the time, it was going to be well over 200,000 over what we were budgeted for. I'm happy to say that I think we're going to keep it. I think we're going to keep it pretty well in check. And we've asked for 100,000. It's looking right now, and don't hold me to it because it's the fire service and things can change. And the really bad things can happen that can wipe this out. But we're hoping that we're going to come in about,
Okay. Yeah.
we're hoping that we're actually going to come in about 75,000. So we may not need the whole transfer, but we're playing it safe with our ask.
So your overtime fire department budget was 175 and we need 100,000 more about.
Roughly.
Okay.
We're spending on overtime, roughly the last 3 or 4 years has been about 300,000.
Okay. And that may probably be that with the new people next year, that'll probably be.
That is the goal.
That's the goal. Okay.
That is the goal. And we've already seen that, right? So when I did the figures, it wasn't without the 2 new people that we put on this year. And I was anticipating it going to be that high again. And we were able to, back that off quite a bit.
Okay. So this, I get it. That's fine. So on the switch, it actually says on the well generator rental, but it's not a rental. We're buying something that somebody else is going to use, hopefully.
So George arranged this, but my understanding with it was it's both. Because I think it's a $9,000 bill combined.
96.
Yeah, I think it includes both the rental and the cost of purchasing the new.
I think it's just the way it's worded on that.
Yeah.
It's-
Yes, I know, that's why I was.
Yeah, we needed something immediately. They had something in a garage someplace, I don't, and they brought it in until they could get something more appropriate. And the one they brought in that we had to rent, we actually, if we lost power, we'd have to go manually go do it. And then they put the regular transfer switch back in, so.
I've learned a lot today about switches. I just would like to say that for all involved. And this it's not at all like the switch that we're waiting for on the new fire station, right?
It's
That switch,
not. So
they're
like
not
I
at all related.
Yeah, like I said, it's the one at the new firehouse is double the size
Okay.
of the one at the temporary firehouse.
Right. Okay,
And I think the majority of that is because, like I said, the front part of that building is all electrical, including the heat. So I think that's why it's so much more juice that's needed in that building.
all right. I was there, it's all, sounds good.
And I'll say it real quick, the firehouse is moving right along. And if this committee wanted to go take a tour, I would love to, within the meeting rules, would love to have you come down and take a look.
Could all go and not talk to each other, that would be fine. I would love to see it. I don't know exactly how that works. I'm just saying, I would love to see where you are with that. It looks beautiful. I always have to say I love the purple, but I know that it's not going to be that color. I felt like that with the library. It's one of my favorite colors, but I definitely
I'm pretty
understand.
happy it's not purple.
I know, I think a lot of people feel like that, but they can see it's the color that I like.
I was just going to say, Counselor DeSorger and everyone, I highly recommend a tour because it is pretty darn exciting.
It's very exciting.
Yeah,
Very
even if it is just a bunch of steel beams and things, you get a sense of what the building's going to be. It was pretty good. I appreciate it. So go.
Okay. So, any more questions for our fire chief who came tonight just to answer these questions, for us and be here? All right. All in favor of making this transfer? Aye. Aye, okay, great. All right, FY 23-164, the sum of the city council upon recommendation of Mayor Rita Gardner, fiscal year end of the year transfer request, move that it be ordered. The sum of $70,000 be transferred from 01009140.5177 HMO health insurance according to the general fund accounts to the city attorney. So after this transfer, we'll have about 400,000 left in that, correct, Director Schindler? Like 409?
That is correct, approximately.
Okay. Any questions on this? The attorney bill?
How much is, this would be for Director Schindler, how much is that line item budgeted for?
100 total.
100, thank you.
Were we over the year before? Do we know?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I am not aware of that off the top of my head.
Okay, that's fine. All right. All in favor of, I guess we're over, so any more questions on that? Do you have any more questions? Anyone?
I have to say that I think I feel a little bit more comfortable if I could see a breakdown
Of the bills?
of the bill.
Okay.
Of the year-to-date bill.
All right. We can hold on that. Could we see a breakdown, Director Schindler, on that? Perhaps by,
I don't know, it might be
That's
too
possible
soon
for
for tomorrow. And I know that we're up against the wall, but I'd like to, well, if we can't provide everything, then I'd like to know what caused the overages. in that line item.
We can hold on that till tomorrow. We can,
Right.
it's possible.
Nobody has an answer right now. I mean, we could, the other thing I was going to suggest is take this, I don't know, take this with, this is my proposal. Take this with no recommendation out to council floor.
Okay.
And then hopefully by then we would have the opportunity to see what the big the big takeaways are. I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for it because it is something that has been expended and we are obliged to vote for it and it will close. DOR will make us close it in the long run. But I think we should know
The breakdown.
why what the breakdown is and why we're closing it. Or we're doing the transfer. And I want to just check one thing. Yeah. So is it possible then, Mayor or Director Schindler, to see some sort of detailed breakdown to this? Or what were our big expenditures that took us over?
I'd like to actually see it.
Mayor,
I'd love to see it.
I'm sorry.
I said I'd love to see it. I like to see things
Oh, okay.
as opposed to hearing it. I'd love to see it.
So.
Yes,
so
go ahead.
I can give you, what I need to know, this is where Diana will come in handy. Are we talking about the labor law attorney or are we talking about our city solicitor? They're two different firms.
I think
right,
that,
this is the city solicitor line, I believe.
Well, either way, they both submit their invoices monthly, and it does list, so there would be several of them. So I'm not sure exactly what point in time we went over, and that might be something that Diana can research between now and tomorrow and find out. But there was a number of legal issues that came up over, requests from city council for legal opinions from the city solicitor, or certain things that occurred that required a legal opinion from the city solicitor. It could be any number of things. I don't, you're talking about now wanting to see a year's worth of invoices from the city solicitor. So let me try to work with Diana Schindler to figure out at what point we overstepped. I'm throwing this out to you as a suggestion.
Okay.
At what point did we overspend potentially? And what was the causes at that point? Their invoices are quite detailed. There's, what the opinion that was required, what it was about. So you will be able to see once we determine at what point we exhausted the amount. And what I don't remember, without going back in time, is whether or not that budget, and I don't believe it was, quite frankly, whether that budget was reduced by the council for FY23.
No, it was not reduced.
I don't think it was. Yeah, I'm in your camp. I don't think it was. So
yeah, I don't think it was reduced. Is there anything in this request, this transfer request, is there anything at all that touches upon the court case?
well, most likely not, because that is handled by Maya, if you'll recall.
Right?
Unless I can't think of anything off the top. I'll know when I see it.
I don't believe we requested any.
But I didn't request any kind of help from Attorney Belcher-Timmy on the court case that I recall. There would have been no need to. If I had a question, it would have gone to the Maya attorney and they pay the bill.
Thank you.
fiscal year 21, it looks like we are over by 26,000. So this is a significant overage. And I think that's a reason, I didn't actually think of that prior, but I think that was a very good idea. I'd love to see, we never see the invoices. That's probably something.
That's probably something we don't see. I mean, you know, it goes through finance, the department, the chief financial officer, and the mayor signs off on the warrant. So there would be no reason for us to see that in normal business mode. But because it's a larger overage, it would make sense to know where the overage came from. Was it the number of opinions that we needed? Was it, was it planning decisions? Was it, that kind of thing? How was it distributed? So.
May I ask, are you okay with what I just suggested, which is to figure out as close as we can the point in time we began to go over? And then we would give you those.
You could have spent a lot up front and then nothing since, so
I think,
that would be helpful.
and the invoices should be on electronic format, right? I don't think it might be lengthy, but.
No, I'm looking out for you guys. Like I said, you'd be looking at you'd be looking at a year as would the council, a year's worth of invoices.
It's gonna be hard
if
copy.
we gave you everything.
It's going to be hard copy because the attorney's going to send a bill every month and list all the cases and stuff like that. And then,
Right, but usually it's all done electronically, not by paper bill.
Yeah.
it's processed electronically,
Yeah.
but seeing the invoices, there's no way to, in my opinion, there's no way to see it electronically except it gets entered into a computer and it'll be a list of things and stuff like that.
It is, Councilor Bottomley, it's an attachment
Yeah.
to an email. So electronically, yes, there would be what I believe
it just-
you would most likely receive would be, let's say, we started to go over in early April or something. I'm picking a time frame. You would see from April till now what those attachments involved.
That wouldn't really be helpful, not knowing what exhausted the original amount.
Exactly.
That would just be telling us, that's not really telling us why we went over. It would be like, that'd be saying, well, we hit April, we spent all of our money, now we can't do anything else for the rest of the year. But like I said, if money was spent high on the front end last year, and then we didn't go, and then, we didn't really use anything, and then we started to spend more in the spring or something and went over, it's not really painting a clear picture of what the use was for. And I know that there would probably be paperwork to an extent, but it sounds like it would be 11 attachments. And I assume that it'd be pretty easy to scan a bill to see what this was for.
Not really.
I think it's easier than an analysis.
Right.
Give us an analytical breakdown of per category, you can do that, but I'm saying just send the invoices. Forward them to.
I think,
Here's my question, if I may. I'm sorry to step ahead, but do we pay a retainer on a monthly basis, or is that $100,000? Hold down.
It is month to month.
Meaning we pull
I mean,
down?
well, okay.
Sorry, Jenny.
Yeah, it is within the confines of the original contract, which I'd have to go back and look at. It is month to month. So yes, there's a budgeted line item that would cover anticipated requests for legal opinion based on the history. And then we would, if we went over, we went over. So, I mean, if you want those invoices, then for an entire year, you can have them, but obviously, but I'm just trying to make it a little simpler. At what point
so
exhaust that? And I get your point. Counselor Toronto, but.
Ah.
But whatever is covered under, Diana has her hand up, whatever is covered under that initial initial amount of money was covered. So we're really
Very
talking
good.
about
Thank
at
you.
what point it went over.
So I'm just going to say, and then I'm going to have Director Schindler speak. I'm reading our room on this, the four of us who are sitting here, and I think the consensus was that we'd like to see the invoices for the year. That's what I'm hearing. So Director Schindler, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. So I was going to say that I don't, I haven't looked in detail at all of the invoices. I don't know, to the breadth of that, like how much it is to produce for tomorrow, because they're all in warrants and they're filed by, dates. They're not just kept, we may have the warrants electronically, but to pull out individual invoices, even electronically, could be very cumbersome. But I'll take a look and see what I can do. And then I have in other municipalities when I've worked is a lot of finance committees or finance teams want to see, sort of legal costs on a regular basis. So we can do, sometimes we can, when we get the invoices, we could export them or download them into a summary sheet. So you could see sort of by topic what's happening, and we can put a total with that. I would caution the mayor that we aren't necessarily going to just release the invoices. Some of that information is confidential, and those invoices, if they are released, some of that might be redacted. So just so you know, because
Okay.
our legal bills sometimes do contain information that's of a confidential nature. So, and we do pay
Absolutely.
the invoices. What the mayor's saying is we pay them monthly, meaning we're billed hourly, and we pay the bills monthly for the hours, and then for additional costs like travel and copies and things like that. The account where we have a paid, it's not a retainer, but it's more of a monthly contract that we have, that we pay a certain amount each month, and if we go over, then we pay that amount, is our labor relations contract. So just to be clear. Thank you.
And what happens with that, if I may jump in here, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
But is they actually, those invoices get put on a bill schedule, which is more brief. It is a bottom line. So I'm sensing from the room that you are actually, and actually I can't recall the last time I saw the bill schedule, but because that's handled by through the chief of staff's office primarily, and I see the invoices as they come in, but it would be it would not give you the detail that I'm sensing that you would like. But as Diana says, she is correct. A great deal of it is potentially confidential. We'd have to look through it all between now and tomorrow at 6 something.
But Mayor, you sign the warrants, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay,
So we will
see what comes by.
no recommendation.
No recommendation.
Is that all right?
Is that can I have a motion for that? Do we have a motion to, no consensus?
I will say that I would like to make a motion that we make a recommendation on the status of this bill.
Look at that.
And the transfer.
All those in favor? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Unanimous in saying no consideration.
Okay, all right, next one. Order number FY 23-165. The City Council, upon recommendation of Mayor Wiedegartner, end of the year transfer request, fiscal year 23. The sum of $86,500 be transferred from 01009140.5177 HMO Health Insurance account to the following general fund accounts: telephone central services 45,000, MP debt, municipal 2022 debt 16,000, short-term interest 500, Medicare town match 25,000. That's roughly 86. That's 86.5. 86.5. Okay.
I have to recuse myself.
All righty then.
Them separately.
I'd say we could, if that's okay with you, I'd say we could take that all together. Is that okay?
I have to recuse.
Okay, all right. So does anybody have any questions about this in general? Council Ford is recusing herself because the four actually are, I think it would, you'd have to be, because the four are bundled together on the whole 86 fund.
Clear?
So, as I recall, telephone services had increased remarkably. We heard that in the operating budget.
The rest seemed kind of pedestrian. The rest seemed kind of pedestrian.
Okay.
The result.
So anybody, all those in favor of this year-end transfer? Aye, okay. All right. Okay, order number FY 23-166. Sum of 44,000, the city council upon recommendation of Mayor Rita Gardner, FY 23 end of the year transfer request, the sum of 44,000 be transferred from account 01007-100.5999.1 debt service principal pay down to account 01007-510.5925 debt service short-term interest. Balance in the pay down account is 44,000. Does that mean that we're not paying down? I think it was 120 that was rescheduled for the pay down, Director Schindler?
Yes, it means that we did hold back. We paid 76,000, I think, is our principal pay down on our ban. And we left that money so we could transfer it to the short-term debt interest.
Okay, so we're not paying down on the principal by 44,000.
Correct.
Okay.
When we did the ban, we paid 76 off and then we refinanced the remaining and then of course, did some additional.
Okay. Questions?
Out of curiosity, is there a reason why? Oh, no, forget I answered my own question. Forget it.
Got it. All right. Guess we all know the interest rates are up, so all those in favor of this transfer?
Aye.
Okay, all right. Order number FY 23-161. The City Council, upon recommendation of Mayor Rita Gardner, in order to approve FY 2022 prior year invoice sewer enterprise, move that it be ordered the city approves the payment of a prior year invoice for the GTR Greenfield Millbrook Solar LLC in the amount of 24,509 to be paid from fiscal year 24 WPCF electricity account number 6000449.5211. The current account balance is 110,000. 2/3 vote requires.
I had a question on this.
Go ahead.
I guess maybe this is just my lack of understanding about how this was set up with the solar installation is, or maybe it's just the way it's listed on this receipt. So they're generating 182,000 and 163,000 kilowatt hours off of the solar panels there. And we're paying them that rate?
So this is Director Schindler. May I address the question?
Absolutely.
So we have a solar array that was installed on, which one? I can't remember. I think this is Millbrook.
Yeah.
And so it came online in March of 2022, which was about a year ago. But it took quite some time for us to basically kind of catch up with our credits and then receive the invoices from the solar developer. So basically what happens is we get credits on the Eversource side of our bills, or so we don't get any bills, we just get credits. So we had a significant credit, building up in the wastewater treatment. And then what happens is on the others, then we also get a bill from the solar company. So you still have to pay for the kilowatt hours, but you're paying it at a reduced rate. So we're saving 3 cents per kilowatt hour. So we pay a discounted rate to the solar company. So it all still comes out of electricity, and the net result should be that we have lower electricity budgets. But this took a little bit of time to get online and for us to get the invoices. So that's why we just got caught up, and now we have to pay them as prior year bills. It actually started in FY22. It spans FY23 now for the invoices we just caught up on.
So is this separate from the Greenfield Light and Power
Yes.
supplier?
Yes, that's our third party energy supplier. That's a different thing. That's how we get good competitive, residential rates. But this is actually a solar array where the city's getting net metering credits. We have a Schedule Z, and basically we get net metering credits on certain accounts across the city, and it lowers our electricity bills.
And are those, but we're still paying these folks 10 cents a kilowatt hour?
Correct. I don't know exactly, but yes, something like
It says
that.
13 and then we get a credit of 3 cents per kilowatt hour. So
Exactly.
Okay.
That's right. So whatever the utility rate is, then we get a 3-cent discount. So if the utility rate changes, that discounted rate changes as well. And what happened right now is that we also have been getting, just a substantial amount of credit. So we have just, Carol could speak much more,
Sure.
eloquently to this, but she just did, we renegotiated or redid the Schedule Z so we could spread the credits out appropriately, because we were getting too many on one account. And so we do want to have them, spread out over the city so that we can manage the financial piece of it properly. So we just did that. And so now we're in good shape. And Marlo actually this year had a little less in FY23, a little less in his sewer electricity, but in FY24, he had budgeted 110. And even with this amount as a prior year coming out of it, we still anticipate he's going to be fine, because we expect the credits to keep going up right now. The rates are showing us that will happen.
Cool. Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. All those, any more questions first? All those in favor of paying this prior year, this
Beautiful array at the end of my street.
yes.
It's a beautiful array at the end of my street.
All those in favor of paying for this prior year invoice, raise your hand. Okay, all right, that passes. All righty, the next one is FY 23-162, the City Council upon recommendation of Mayor Wiedegartner in order to approve FY 24 Community Preservation Fund budget, administrative costs and reserves. Move that be the city vote to appropriate and reserve from Community Preservation Fund annual revenues the sums recommended by the Community Preservation Fund for committee administrative expenses and reserves in fiscal year 24, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation. Appropriate fiscal year 24 CPC administrative expenses in the amount of $13,225, which is 5%. Reserve $171,925 from fiscal year 2024 Community Preservation Fund revenues for Community Preservation Fund purposes. FY 24 annual budget reserve 65%. Reserve $26,450 from fiscal year 2024 Community Preservation Fund revenues for open space 10%. Reserve $26,450 from fiscal year 2024 Community Preservation Fund revenues for historic resources, 10%. Reserve $26,450 from fiscal year 2024 Community Preservation Fund revenues for community housing, 10%. Majority vote required. Questions and discussion.
Nope.
Okay, so I had a question about this. So the match, the 15% estimated match is lower than in fiscal year 23. The budget estimate was 25% and the actual match was 38.5%. As the Department of Revenue has not released an estimate for CPA communities to use in their budget. So what happens? So first of all, is that amount figured in what we are voting on tonight? What we estimate the match to be? For Director Schindler.
So yes, it is an estimate. It is intended to take into consideration the local share and what we anticipate the state match will be. And I would say when the CPA committee did their work, they did this work months ago, and they were looking at projections from the state for CPA match that were fairly conservative. Worcester joined the CPA fund this year, so there was a concern there might be a ripple effect from that. And also state revenues weren't as robust as they have been in the last couple months. So I think there has been an announcement that those revenues may be higher than anticipated, the state share. But the CPA committee had voted those amounts and is, those amounts are standing as in terms of what they're putting in reserves. So again, it's based on the estimated revenue. When the revenue actually comes in, the actual revenue will just go into undesignated. So it's basically a fund balance, just like other fund balances we have. So you're designating some of that fund balance tonight into those reserve accounts, and any additional revenue that is received by the city that isn't designated would just stay with the CPA undesignated fund.
Oh, but it definitely stays with the CPA. That was my question, because It was such a big, I heard that I thought the state was doing pretty well, so I anticipated that we'd get probably at least 25, but it stays in the CPA fund, doesn't go into the general fund.
Correct, absolutely.
fine.
The money
Okay.
is restricted to the CPA fund.
Okay, and what month do we hear, when do we hear exactly what that's going to be?
Well, it comes similar to state aid. So, we won't really know until we actually, they sort of close the state budget and they have all their conference committees and all of that. So it's usually in the fall sometime. That we know with absolute certainty.
So it's going to be in the fall, okay. So, all right. So any more questions on that? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, so I had a couple more questions, so. So let's go back to this. Other business. While we are all here, I had a couple of other questions. One was on the information that I had requested from you, Director Schindler, that was sent to everybody on the transfers and the journal entry. And I believe that was sent on June 5th. The journal inquiry, I asked about the transfers, and the journal inquiries, first, I had a question for you. It doesn't appear that there's any dates on this. I haven't seen journal entries before. Can you hear me okay?
No, what was you haven't seen?
Journal entries. We haven't seen journal entries before. So I asked where, because this was this was, I wondered how certain things were paid for, and they weren't actually transfers, so they're journal entries. So I referenced earlier when we were during the budget season, the 911 grant that was 97,500, and I asked how that was accounted for. So we have these journal entries in front of us, but there are no dates on them, and it really wasn't clear what fund, exactly where it went and when, and it looked like 97.5 went in twice. And so could you talk about that?
Sure. The journal entries just show, the reason it looks like they're doubled is because they have to show the due tos and the due from. So basically that's how we move the money from one fund balance to another. So in addition to hitting the expense account, which hits with a debit or a credit, then you also have what hits the due and from, which is the, just part of the journal entry that you have to do to properly move the funding. So the date of it, so it was the total, I believe, was the 97.5 that was moved. And the date, I thought that the date was there on the journal. I believe it was just in April, perhaps. I recall, but I don't actually have it in front of me, Counselor. I'm sorry, but I thought it did have a date on it. It was done. I think it was done in like April. I believe that the city accountant had said, but I'll go back and see if I can find that.
Okay, let me just see what this is at the top.
I thought
this
there
is
was.
This is very small print, but I might have to say that I stand corrected on the date. I was looking for each one as it went down because I wondered when it happened. At the top of the paper, it has a date, but that looked like the date
That might have been when I.
That might have been when I.
Yeah, that might have been when I ran the report. Yes, that might be the case. So I'm not sure when she actually did the entry, but I believe it was, she had just done the entry because we were, I was posting entries and came upon it when you were asking me about it. So that's why I summarized it and sent it to you.
So I just want to further just belabor this point for a moment. So, and I promise you I won't be that long, but we had appropriated an amount for salaries, which was 603. This is in fiscal year 24 in dispatch for 603,054. And now 71,000 and change went towards the salaries. And the same, we had appropriated some for overtime, and some of this money went towards overtime, which is wonderful. I'm delighted we got that grant. But the rest of the money that we actually voted and appropriated for that we voted and appropriated 727,000, and we received 97.5 went from the 911. What happens to the rest of the general appropriations, my count? What happens to the rest of what we appropriated for? Does that stay in the general fund?
Yes, unless it's used. So because it's bottom line, if it was needed in the salaries and wages for overtime or for other funding in that line, it might be used or it would be there and available. And if any money was remaining in the budget, it would go stay in the general fund and be close to free cash.
Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to know. That was good. That was one thing. Thank you so much for that. Then I had a question about the TIF. There's a TIF, this is a two-part question. There's a TIF meeting on Monday that I brought that to Chair's attention. I'm not going to be able to attend that.
Right.
Where we're working on the policy. Tomorrow, are we going to be looking at having somebody go from Ways and Means? Because I think somebody should be there at our meeting.
But what I do know is that I did talk to President Gwynn today.
Okay.
He is anxious to get someone appointed to go.
On for this coming week. That would be advice. Okay. And my other question was on because this is actually a monetary thing. I know that it went to, I think it went to economic development. But the TIF that we're ending, it represented a loss of $60,000 to the city because the individual that the TIF is ending with was overpaid. And I guess I just don't understand why we wouldn't be recouping that. You have any insight on that?
Ginny, I'm sorry, what is it again?
The TIF,
The TIF.
the TIF that was with Ford Toyota.
Okay, thank
It
you.
was, they were,
I know.
they were credited 60,000 more, which we're not recouping. And I'm thinking that's a significant piece. Do you have any thoughts on that, Director Schindler? Or we can talk about that tomorrow to give you a day.
Well, I can respond. I mean, I had extensive conversations with the chief assessor about this issue. And, one of the reasons that we decided to not pursue any type of clawback is that, we were asking to end the TIF early, which the company is not obligated to do because it is a legal contract. So they were willing to do that. And frankly, it seems like the current chief assessor's predecessor had perhaps not calculated the TIF properly. So we felt it was the city's error of why it was improperly calculated. And while maybe the vendor should have brought, or the company should have brought it to our attention, I think they also had folks in their business office that really didn't understand. So we all just agreed that if they would release the TIF, again, which is a legal agreement, has to go to EDIP to be voted, has to go to council, and then has to go to EDIP to be voted. But we would just, sort of just end it. And then finally, we expect that in the future, it's a company that's going to want to be in business in Greenfield and maybe another location. They already have expressed interest in the location on Deerfield Street. So, we just also thought, in the sake of being good, stewards of that business relationship, that we would leave it as it was.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a concern about that because it feels a little bit like a double standard, that we're willing to say, oh, we miscalculated by $60,000 for a business, and it's okay to say, oh, sorry, you don't have to pay that back, but we are taking people's houses for very small amounts of money. So it just feels like a double standard when we're aggressively going after individual owners, and then we're willing to give a $60,000 overage to a business because it's a business, is what I'm hearing.
There's a contract. There's a TIF contract, which I think makes the difference here. I think that's like the card that's being played.
Okay.
And that basically, and I'm just thinking I'm thinking out loud, that the contract itself, you have to do what you possibly can. Once you sign that contract, you commit to that. And that's what I think, because it's an error on our part, that the contract, it is, my opinion, it's not right, it's not fair, but it's a contract, and you have to hold your nose, and otherwise you're in violation of the contract, and then that can get into all kinds of ramifications. So that's going to go to a state. Somebody will take that for 60 grand, they'll take it to the state.
It didn't appear to me, though, because I was quite familiar with this one, as you know, and we had a TIF meeting. I said that a couple of years ago, that we were calculating them incorrectly to the benefit of the business owner. And I said all that he had left was personal property. It was nowhere near that amount to get out of that. And maybe that is what we needed to do, but I think I understand that contracts need to be settled, which actually, while we're talking about the home equity theft, we're talking about that touched on home equity theft. That wasn't, I think that's something that together a policy needs to be made and looked at. And I brought that up at chairs also, because that's going to come down to dollars and cents if people are going to pursue that. So that's just another thing for everyone to be thinking about. That will probably be something through A&O, but we may be involved in that also. So,
well, if I could, for just a moment, to talk about the home equity issue and everything else. there are so many variables out there right now.
I know.
The feds, did a ruling. It wasn't in our state, but our state is one of the states that still
Does that.
do this. And obviously, it's something that a lot of people don't want us to do in this state anymore. However, how do we as individuals, anything we do as individuals on a home rule charter could be negated if the state came along and imposed what they wanted to do. I mean, it would be Fed, state, and then us. So I'm not saying we shouldn't work on it. I think we should work on it. I think we should be prepared for it. But I think you need to recognize the levels that are involved in this. And we need to be prepared and reach out to our reps and find out what's going on in the State House in regard to this. I think those are really, how do we need guidance. Thank you. We want to get rid of this. We don't want to do this anymore. Or, we do want people to pay their property taxes, and we do, if we have to take property and we sell it, then they get whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I don't, but you have to pay your taxes. If you can't pay your taxes, if they take your house and they sell it for $100,000 and you owe $25,000, the question is, should you get the $75,000 back? That's an equity issue. So
I think we referenced this before, but I think there's kind of a middle ground, because I also believe that you shouldn't straight away get your full equity in it if the city had to be your broker. There's costs associated with selling a house,
Right.
legal fees, any of those. I mean, yes, we're gonna get the
All of
legal
that is
fees,
taken
but-
out of it.
it's very complex.
Right, yeah.
Because then it does put the city in as the broker.
Right.
So,
I mean, it could be anything like a percentage. And I'm saying this is after
oh yeah.
legal fees and anything that we incurred through the process of taking the house. At least to me, I don't think we should be taking all the equity either. But maybe somehow a formula that could be figured out.
All right. Anything further? Any other new business? Okay, so our next meeting is going to be July 18th at 6 PM at City Hall Meeting Room. I'll take a motion.
Joining on Zoom.
Okay,
Okay.
very good. I'll take a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second that.
and it's 7:22. What happened to the clock?
All those in favor?
Oh, aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yes.
I don't want to go home right now.
Okay, so it ends at 7:22.